Welcome to Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams. We create spaces where stories are not extracted but honored, where memory becomes medicine, and where identity is affirmed rather than explained. Through intentional storytelling, intergenerational dialogue, and community-centered action, we help people reconnect to what has always been theirs: wisdom, dignity, and the right to dream forward. Our work invites reflection, restoration, and responsibility, transforming inherited resilience into conscious vision and collective care. Before, we were dreams whispered in the dark, hands that built without recognition, voices that carried hope when silence was safer. This space is for them. It's for us, the ones that still are becoming, still remembering, still choosing to dream forward. Here, we honor where we come from so we can be clear about where we're going. This is Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, where legacy is bound by vision and rooted in purpose. Today, we are joined by Danielle Taylor, and we'll be discussing how to heal from trauma. Danielle, tell us what you think about when you hear where legacy is bound by vision and rooted in purpose.
I think of my ancestors. I have to always go back to the ancestors. You know, we had so many great ancestors that came before us, and it is so rooted in all the work that they have done to be able to give us a space to continue a legacy of change, a legacy of empowerment, and a legacy, you know, when it comes to building our Black culture and community.
Thank you. Thank you. Today we're going to, delve into trauma and healing, and you're going to share with us a little bit about your book and your organization, what you're doing. So your book, Taylor by Heart, is such a powerful title. What does it mean to you, and what lived experience shaped it?
It means owning my story, embracing the truth, and realizing, my past, it was just a chapter. It was not my whole book. Growing up with adolescent trauma, it was quite difficult. It eventually bled into my adulthood for a long time. Insecurities, wrote my story, and I wanted to be able to change the narrative of my story and embrace my healing.
Thank you. Was there a specific moment where you realized what happened to me doesn't define me, and what shifted?
I never believed I was that girl, the one who seemed confident, desired, and chosen. The girls I went to school with looked like they knew who they were, and I felt like I was always trying to catch up instead of admitting that I was hurting. I masked it with anger. I became violent, reactive, and hard because I felt safer to be feared than to feel invisible,
That's really powerful. How do you describe, the difference between surviving trauma and actually healing from trauma? What helped you cross that bridge?
Maybe because I didn't understand back then that my insecurity wasn't shaping my emotions. It was shaping my decisions. I didn't see myself as a high value woman, so I didn't require high value. In my life, I accepted any male companionship that showed interest, without standards, without boundaries, and without asking if it aligned with who I was. I was choosing from trauma versus safety. I was choosing from emptiness. So what shaped it was I didn't no longer want to suffer in silence when it came to my mental health. I suffered from a lot of depression, and it held me back from things that I knew I was capable to do in my life. It held me back for years. I suffered for over 10, 15 years from mental illness.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of times when we have trauma, or when we ourselves don't feel safe, or we feel less than, we do tend to choose people and situations at our level of how we're feeling. So if you're feeling down, the people you associate with may not be the best for you when you're in that state.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I remember, in my 20s, I was lost. I was carrying so much unhealed trauma, searching for identity, but instead I slowed down and started doing the healing, and the moment in my life that I was confused in memory with identity. Most of the time we look back at who we are and the mistakes that detour, the labels, the seasons we're not proud of, and we quietly decide that's for. But I just knew that I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it for my kids. That is my biggest why. And I could not do it for myself in order to be able to live out this purpose that I knew deep inside that I had, and, conversations that I would have with God about my future.
What you said, confusing memory with, what was it? Memory with identity.
Mm-hmm.
That is so powerful. I don't think a lot of people, I bet that resonates with a lot of people who have experienced trauma themselves. That is a really powerful way to kind of conceptualize how you were living in trauma or how you were carrying it and manifesting it.
Because most people right now, is a lot of women that are functioning in their trauma. You know what I'm saying? They wake up every day and they function in their trauma. And a lot of people are scared to embrace the healing because they feel like we were taught in our community that counseling was, no, Black people don't do counseling. We sweep everything up in the rug. We don't talk about anything. So they're so used to the clinician side of, the clinical side of, healing, and it kind of shies them away from addressing the issues because they feel like, well, if I go to counseling, something is definitely wrong with me. And when it comes to my approach with healing women, is because I don't come from a textbook. I come from the lived experience that I've been through versus that clinician side of somebody feeling like I'm sitting on this couch and I'm talking to this person and they don't understand nothing I've been through. But having that lived experience makes it even better for me to service the women that I service every day, especially working in the correctional facilities that I work in.
Okay. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and how you help some of these women?
So right now I am building, you talked about, my books. Right now I have, a workbook out, called The Silent Wound, and it teaches my Taylor method. And what I do is I help women identify the trauma and put like a name to it. 'Cause a lot of people, like I said, it's back to that, the memory, confusing it with identity. So in my Taylor method, we start with T, is tracing the patterns back to the origin. And then we acknowledge, without judgment, we acknowledge what we've been through, especially in our adolescent stages, that is very vital to our development. And then, we identify, what needs weren't met, we learn what those nervous system languages are, and then we open up a new narrative to move forward in our healing, and we reclaim just a small piece of ourselves every day, even if it's every day, just reclaiming a piece of you that you lost through that moment of trauma.
Thank you for sharing that with us. How do you, what did trauma teach you about your nervous system? Like your body, your triggers, your survival responses, and how did you learn to feel safe again?
Oh, it taught me a lot. It taught me that, first of all, I wasn't the problem. And I'm not even going to say, the people that caused the trauma, I'm not even going to give them any reward or glory, right? So going through everything that I went through, like I said, even in school, I remember just being so angry, so reactive. Everything triggered me. Like I would just tee off at any given second. I had no respect for authority, just all these things that was driving my nervous system because of everything that I was going through at home, eventually start entering into school and places that I needed to be, school, sports. And I just had this big attitude. It just drove every part of just being angry, defensive all the time, insecure because of the things of the verbal abuse that I was facing at home, So I had these moments of self-doubt, low self-esteem, that all worked in my nervous system. I end up eventually kind of having social anxiety because I just felt like I just wasn't good enough. And for a long time, I remember not even really want to go out and be sociable.
So what did trauma teach you about your nervous system, your body, your triggers, your survival responses, and how did you learn to feel safe again?
The bridge for me, was reparenting myself. It wasn't comfortable. My nervous system fought me the whole way, but slowly, I stopped just surviving and started building a life I didn't need to escape from anymore. Realizing nobody was going to come save me. Nobody was going to undo what happened or give me the childhood I deserved. And I could either wait for somebody to finally love me the right way or, start giving that to myself.
That's beautiful. That is. So you found safety in confidence and in learning to move through your trauma.
Yeah, because that's the difference. Surviving is avoiding the pain, but the healing, you're transforming it and you're using it to rebuild yourself from the inside out, So yeah, I knew that I had to go inside in order to be who I am now, be the woman that I am now, helping other women. Now I can go back and help other women because you can't pour from an empty cup,
Yeah. So in regards to your book, what parts of your story were hardest to name out loud? Shame, grief, betrayal, abandonment, and what helped you reclaim your voice?
The hardest part was reliving my adoption, my adolescent. I remember, being away from my sister. So my mom has four children, but she didn't raise any. And me and my sister, we wasn't separated through the adoption. My brother and sister, they were separated. So I never laid eyes on my brother or my sister my whole entire life. It's just been me and my sister. And just knowing the trauma that she was going through and I couldn't help her. So that was the hardest part of my story, is telling that and telling what I went through as a teenage girl, running away from home at the age of 16, getting guns put to my head by gangbangers. Because when you're a child, that's what builds you. What you go through as a child, it can make or break you, right? And so everything that I went through as a child, it bled over, like I stated earlier, into my adulthood, and I suffered. I suffered to be who I am today. And I let her be stagnant in her growth because I always had this fighter spirit about me. You ain't going to do me no type of way, and even through all the neglect and the beatings and the verbal abuse, I was going and I was talking to Child Protective Services about it and just everything. Like I had a voice, even at a young age, I had a voice though. But once I got older and I felt like I didn't have that support and I didn't have what I needed, it really spiraled into me self-sabotaging a lot of things in my life.
Yeah, it sounds like you went through quite a bit at a young age, but it sounds like that journey kind of helped you to heal and be the person you are today and to reclaim, reparent the younger you.
Yeah, definitely. Validating my own feelings instead of dismissing them, setting boundaries without drowning in guilt. And, I gave myself permission to rest and take up space. I take up space now. I didn't. For a long time, I didn't take up space, even when I started getting healing, because I felt like, okay, I don't want nobody else to think that, who does she think she is to empower women or this, and that. So sometimes I would have to go back and stitch myself up, tailor my heart, stitch myself back up like, okay, girl, you tripping. You have the right to take up space, So every day is recovery for me. Every day I walk in recovery.
Thank you. How did you rebuild trust, rather it be in yourself and other people or in love, after what you did or after what you went through as a child and an adult? How did you learn to rebuild trust, and is it there, or is that something you still struggle with?
It's there. I'm learning that I want to go where I'm celebrated and not tolerated, learning that if somebody is for me, the conversation should hit different in their mouth. They should always be celebrating me and not knocking me down, knowing how to handle me. So boundaries is everything for me. If it doesn't feel right in my spirit, then I have to have a conversation with myself and be like, is this serving me? Is this friendship serving me? Is this job serving me? Just everything. Because like I said, I suffered from mental health for a long time. So I need to make sure that I'm in a safe space. You know what I'm saying? Because at any given moment, a trigger could be re-triggered for me. And then who knows? You know what I'm saying? Even though I have the tools to use, but sometimes it's that what if? What if something drives me back to being angry and violent, or, you know what I'm saying? But I do the things that I need to do, so I won't go there, but you can never say never. So my mental health is everything for me. I have to have that maintenance no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. So, before we had talked about like you being around people or just people who went through trauma, being around people at their self-esteem and, maybe not the healthiest people or the healthiest relationships. What role do boundaries play in your healing, and what's one boundary you're proud to hold?
It probably would be, like I said, taking up space for me, living authentically and my purpose without shame, If I never address my inner child, I don't believe I'll be having this interview today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. How did you find or rebuild community? So I know that trust, plays a big role. So how did you go about, especially with social anxiety, rebuilding your community and people who could hold your truth without trying to fix you?
I was able to find two amazing spiritual mentors. The space that they allowed me to heal without judgment. A lot of things that I was going through, being a single parent, just the way they handled me, excuse me, and nurtured me, because I lost one of them
I'm sorry to hear
not
that.
too long ago. But when I say these women were powerful women that spoke into my life and so patient with me through the growing pains, because I didn't always get it right. And I remember my one spiritual mentor saying, hey, you're asking me to be your mentor, but look, I'm not about to be playing no games with you. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. You're asking me this, and I'm serious about what I do. And it's crazy because I see myself in her now, fast forward. You know what I'm saying? As I'm working with women, especially in the correctional facilities, and they just poured into me so much, and they birthed out a lot of giftings that I didn't even know I had in me. They just, man, they were amazing, just amazing. So having that support, it means everything when you have somebody that sees you, and I know that they saw me,
Yeah. Yeah. So when healing feels slow or messy or like intolerable, what practices bring you back to your power? Like faith, creativity, movement, therapy, sisterhood? What brings you back to your power and kind of resets you?
I'm an extrovert and introvert, so I think I go inward. when it starts feeling like that. And I do self-checks, I journal. I love to sing, so I put on some music and I get to singing all around my house. And definitely sisterhood would be for me, because I find so much solace and peace when I am out here teaching in the communities and helping other women. It makes me feel like it empowers me. I feel like I'm unstoppable, because when I'm helping women, I know that the trauma that I went through, it didn't defeat me, because when you become self-aware, you become undefeated. So in that moment of just being around sisterhood and creating these safe spaces for women, that helps me a lot.
And, it is, as we wrap up, to ask you, for someone who's still in the I'm just trying to make it stage, is kind of what I call the survivor stage. What's one truth you want them to carry today about their worth and their future?
Why do they deny themselves of their healing? You're not the person you were when you were surviving. You're not that version of yourself shaped by fear, lack, or trauma. You are not your worst decision, your lowest moment, or what happened to you. You are becoming, so I would tell them that growth begins the moment you separate what you did from who you are, and who you are from who you can become. There's power in owning your past, but there's freedom in refusing to live there. So that would be my advice right there.
That's a powerful message. So you mentioned that you work in the prison correctional system with women, and we know you have a book. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on and how our listeners can contact you or help you with your mission or get involved?
So right now I have my digital products that I have online. You can go to the stand store. Let me see. Thought I had that ready, but I don't. I'll have to pull up my website. I'm sorry about that, folks. But right now I'm a pivot. Right now I am really working on a big project. And I say it's big because right now I've entered into a nationwide entrepreneurship competition where you have the chance to get your story out there, get your brand, your business out there, have a chance to be featured in a magazine, win $25,000, and to work with one of the biggest businessmen out here, and I say this to say, because this mission is important to me. If I win, everybody win, because this mission will fuel what needs to be done in our communities. I have so many goals and dreams to build workshops and different things for women, and healing spaces and conferences, all this good stuff for women. So right now I'm working on that. The competition opens up on March 23rd. And I have the link for that.
Thank you.
Second here. I'm sorry. I hate not being prepared. So the link for that is entrepreneurofimpact.org/2026 Danielle Taylor. That is the link that you can go to be able to vote for me. I would definitely appreciate it. You can definitely follow me at The Heart Taylor on Instagram, Facebook, Danielle Taylor. I'm building a digital platform for women, because even though I'm in the correctional facility, right, and these ladies are locked up, right, but it's so many women that are locked up. I'll go into these facilities every day, and these women are there. They can't get out, right? But it's so many women right now that are suffering in silence, that they're locked up themselves. And I want to be able to create a space digitally for women, to empower them, for them to begin their journey of healing. So that's what I'm working on. And this competition would fuel that mission for me to do it.
Thank you. And just for clarification, your first name is kind of spelled different ways. Can you tell us what how to spell your name when they're looking you up on these platforms and your book and stuff?
So on my platforms is gonna be spelled Danyelle Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you. And your book is already in the Stand store, correct? STAND.
Yes, let me find my Stand store link.
And we will, for our listeners, we will include that in the summary of this episode so that you can be able to buy her products and contact her and support her on her platform.
So it is stand.store at the Heart Taylor.
Is that TAYLOR?
Nope. Tailor as in the correct way of a tailor that would tailor you a suit. TAILOR. I know I got a lot going on with the different spellings of names, but you have to read my book to really go into why I switch up my names. I was adopted, so my name was changed and spelled and rearranged. So, yeah.
Understand. Sounds like a very good book to help others who have been in your situation heal. And it was our pleasure to have you on our podcast, which you can find on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple stores. You can also reach it through my website, justbreathecenters.org. And as we close, we invite you to know this will stay with you. The memory, the question, the truth that surfaced. Our ancestors live on in how we listen, how we care for one another, and how we choose to move forward together. If this interview resonated with you, share it with someone who holds your history. Leave a review so these stories reach others who need them. Until next time, stay rooted, stay connected, and keep dreaming. To listen to this episodes and other episodes of Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, listen to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thank you, Danielle, for joining us, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.